Hello, gorgeous people. I owed you a Helen Lloyd call. You have no idea, Helen. It was the only call the first time I've ever had to reschedule. You guys know I had like personal drama. I rescheduled, and that night I had like six people send me messages going, "What do you mean you rescheduled Helen Lloyd? When are you getting Helen Lloyd back? Well, what's the date? Can I have the link? When's she coming back?" Like, I was
I'm here.
like, I want to have a good old chat. And it occurred to me, I kind of throw something. Oh, you guys don't forget the rules, but I don't think she would mind me saying this.
What are the
Let
rules? I don't know what
let's
the
take
rules are.
advantage of the fact that we've got Helen here. If you have any questions about directed sessions, um, not quirky questions only this time, Rebecca. I'm making an exception to the rule because I have the person here on the line that can address questions you have about your narrating, your auditions, your reads. I mean, Helen Lloyd, I don't mind saying it, is a miracle worker.
Oh my
And
God.
but no, but you really are because and you don't just give the same direction every time because you know how you do enough romances after I just come off a spurt of doing a whole bunch of romances.
Yeah, it's easy to fall into habits
Yeah.
and to go not take the easy way because it isn't necessarily easy, but just to fall into a vocal pattern that is you don't have to think about. You know,
Yeah.
you see the text, you read it accurately, and you think, oh yeah, I know who this did da 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 da. I know who this person is. What you do is you fall into. It's like if you listen to people, not narrators, but if you listen to parents, particularly reading to their kids, when the children are little, they do this. Once upon a time, there was a big house and a really little fairy lived bottom of the drive. Now, that's absolutely fine when you've got your little one sitting on your knee and they are, I don't know, a year old. That's absolutely great. But if you start narrating children's audiobooks like that, or audiobooks for children, it's deeply patronizing and incredibly boring. So you know, and we all do the same thing. You think, oh, this is a romance. So as you say, I've got the big, muscled, hairy, chesty
Yep.
butch. I've got the pretty little feminine girl who flutters her eyelashes and lisps a little bit and all of that. And you just fall into those patterns because they're easy.
Yeah.
But actually, beneath all those cardboard characters, which are generally so appallingly badly written, with all those, and it's terribly easy to do. So having somebody else hear you, come on then, settle down. Thank you. Good
Come
boy.
join us on the call. Hello, sweetheart.
He's not photogenic because he's jet black and you can't see his eyes.
Ah,
You're a mutt, aren't you?
but
Yeah.
monochrome is in right now, so.
Well, oh, I suppose. Yeah. So you have to you have to stop thinking about voices and start thinking about people. I think that's my
I think this is fascinating to me. Um, I think you were trying to say this, and I think Johnny Hellers tried to say this, and I think we all hear it, but if we only know what we know, right? So when you're a new narrator and you're taking advice and they say flatter, make it less, be in the moment, those are great directions if you're taking them in the right way. But I tried to learn so hard being a good student. I'm always the best student. So I take everything on a very black and white level. So throughout the years, I tried to make it flatter. Don't do as much. Don't do this. And then I would meet you or I would like meet Johnny and always coach you guys, never stop, no matter how long you're doing this business. I'm proud of the fact that if I'm 70, I'll still call Helen Lloyd and say, Helen, please, can you listen to this?
Darling, if you're 70, I'll be 170. So don't
No, we're not that. No, I'm not that. So, but long story short, I listened to the advice and I thought I was like learning and becoming better. But what I was doing was getting rid of my connection because I was trying to learn the rules. I was trying really hard to sound the way I was supposed to sound. Don't insert myself in the text. Keep myself out. And I lost the honesty.
It's very interesting when anybody who's worked in theatre or been an actor at any time, you'll know that when you go to the first read through of a production, there's an instinctive, vibrant thing that happens at the first read through that totally disappears for the next 3 weeks and sometimes never comes back.
Yes.
Or actually performing. It's the edginess of something being new, of saying things for the first time, of hearing a response. So somebody says a line to you and you hear it in real time and you respond instinctively in real time.
And your instinct.
That's right. So when you're unfamiliar with something and somebody says something to you, you respond truthfully because it's like you've never heard it being said like that before. I mean, if I were to say, oh my God, the dog's dead, you would respond to that in a different way than if I went, oh my God, the dog's dead. Because I've said exactly the same line in a completely different way. And the answer to that line is, if it's, oh, don't be silly, he's just asleep, you would say it in a completely different way depending on how I gave you the feed line.
Yeah.
So when you're working in audiobooks, what you're doing is you are playing all those parts.
You're feeding them to yourself, the lines.
You have to listen. Yes, Frederick, I'm stroking you, for God's sake.
And you have to react to yourself
in the moment. To yourself in the moment. So what happens when you're over prepared, or when you don't have the technique to step back and go back in time and remember your instincts of that first time you read it, then it starts sounding stilted. And that's just a technique thing.
Yeah.
Some narrators don't really prepare terribly much. You know, they skim read because they trust themselves and they trust their belief in themselves sufficiently to be able to not quite sight read, but almost. Now, that's completely a matter of choice. But I will say that one of the most important things I think I've ever said to anyone is make your preparation meaningful. Yeah. But preparing is not about highlighting all your characters in different colors. It's not about marking in all your pauses and all your breaths and all your intonations and going, oh yes, I'm going to go up at the end of this sentence and then I'm going to go down at the end of this sentence. For me, that isn't what preparation is about. It may be something that you think about along the way, but if your script is full of those, for me, if my script anyway is full of hieroglyphs and different colors, I just find it distracting. I'm looking ahead and going, oh my God, it's pink coming up.
I can't. That's like the accent thing where they learn all the intonations. I can't. I'm going in the booth. I'm what? I can't think about that when I'm in the booth.
Absolutely. So for me, when I prep, I never practice voices unless there's a particular pronunciation or an accent or something that I'm not familiar with. What I do is I think about, who is this person? What's their attitude? What's their personality? What's their relationship to A, B, C, and D? Are they the dominant person in this scene? Are they the subservient person in this scene? What do they want out of this scene? And that want will change over the book because people grow. So what you end up with is a mental, a physical sometimes, but an emotional picture of who that person is. And when you actually come to do the narration, their voice just pops into your head. You haven't planned it.
Because
And I mean,
you got to know your characters, like their friend.
yeah,
Like I used to do a thing where before I recorded, and it gave me a voice sample for long books, I would record each character talking to each other and explaining their story to each other. So I
yeah,
and it was a really handy, fun exercise I did. And then people kind of like, okay, we'll get a, and I listened. Oh, well, that's silly. Just get on with it. And I got busy and I stopped doing it. The things that sparked joy, dressing up in the booth, the things that were just me that people thought were nuts, and all the advice you take when you listen. I challenge people because I wish I'd done, I could kick myself. When I took advice, not like coaching from like you guys, but like just read something on social media. I thought, okay, I have to do that immediately. The step
and
of
you
what
get
do
it.
I
Yeah.
think?
Mm.
You know, do I believe this? That, but you listen to yourself. I remember you telling me about your headshot and how you just one day decided you're going to be me, and how like after that you're going to be me, you're going to be you, and you used to use an avatar, and after that everything changed immensely, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Because much though you don't want it to, people see you and imagine you sound a certain way because of the way you look. I mean, I feel very sorry for narrators whose voices don't fit their faces. I know somebody, there's a British narrator she's in her late 40s. She's got 3 kids. She sounds like a 16-year-old. She's got a very high voice with a lisp. And there's a real disconnect in her, what she looks like and how she sounds. So it's very difficult. I talk to her, and casting directors really struggle because they don't know where to put her because she doesn't sound like she looks. I mean, I don't think I sound any different from the way I did when I was 30, but I know I do. I must do. I must
Well,
do.
I mean, but not
But yeah,
as different as you would think,
not as
because some
different.
people
No,
sound
exactly.
older when they're
Exactly.
younger.
Exactly. Not as, yes, I've always sound older.
I've
I've
always
always,
sounded this way when I was 16.
but I think the important thing is that what you're doing when you narrate, as when you're acting in anything, is you are telling a truth in a totally artificial environment, and you are creating a person, or in our case, people who are believable. And that's really all you have to do. All you have to do. You know,
Easy.
and if you know who those people are,
Yeah.
every single person, from the one who's only got 3 lines, what's the saying, there's no small parts, there are only small actors.
Yeah.
Every single one of those people is a living, breathing, alive person for you as a narrator. And you know their timbre, their weight, their effort, their personality, whether they're jealous, whether they're flippant, whether they're joyous, whether they're depressed, whether they're angry, whether they're happy with themselves, whether they're unhappy with themselves, and what they want out of that scene, even if it's only to, oh God, I want to escape from this scene. And they've got one line and they vanish and you never hear from them again.
But hearing you
Know
talk
that
about them, sorry, I'm interrupting you because I'm so excited. I've got to say this before I completely forget what I'm thinking. Hearing you talk about them is the great joy, in my opinion, of this job is when you do that, right? And they become so real in your mind. Our minds don't know the difference between what we're imagining and saying and what's actually in front of us. So they become, if you have any imagination at all, a real experience. So we are literally getting to live all these lives if you do it that way.
Yeah.
Whereas I'd started just meeting deadlines for a while.
The difficulty is, and it is a real difficulty, is that a lot of the time we are charged with turning a silk purse, making a silk purse out of a pig's ear. We are not lucky enough, most of us, to be reading great literature all the time. We're just not, because most books that are written are not great literature. They're crap. a lot of the time. I mean, and really badly written. You know, they're over. I've done books where there's been 7 adjectives to describe a cheese sandwich on one book I did, and you just think, you know, this is a short story that's been padded out by 10 million adjectives, and
But
that's all it is,
then
really.
Joel Frumkin says that then we find a way to love it no matter what.
Exactly. But you have to play. I don't know whether you can ever find a way to love it exactly, but what you have to do is play it with as much commitment and as much truthfulness or apparent truthfulness as you can muster. And you put exactly the same amount of, if once you are heard or observed to be commenting on, oh my God, what a load of rubbish this is.
Yeah.
And they're lost. Your listener is lost. The number of times I've had authors come back and say, my God, you make my book sound so much better than it really is. And that's really what we're doing a lot of the time.
And that brings us to, there will come a point where you have to make a decision about what you need to turn down, because some things, if you can't do it, I'd
Yeah,
love the money, but I'm not doing it.
no. I think there's a line. We all have a line, and I
Yeah,
think
and
you
it's
have
different
a
for
line,
everyone.
whatever your line is. And sometimes it's just because.
And my other line is animal cruelty, because in thrillers, you run into that sometimes. I'm
I'm about
careful
to beat
about how
my
that's
dog, may
addressed.
I?
Huh?
I'm about to beat my dog. You don't mind, do you? No, I don't.
No, we love.
No, I never would. I never would. It's a spoilt brat, totally and utterly spoilt. But no, it's yeah, there is a line, and we all have
Yeah,
a line. And at some point, I think many of us get to the point where we go, do you know what? I've actually had enough of reading this.
yeah.
I'm not getting anything out of it. And you know, you may have a loyalty to authors where you've done 6 books in the theory in the series and you're on the 7th, and you go, okay, just one more. And then they write the 8th and you go, okay, and another one. That's a different thing altogether. But I think there does come a time when, I mean, I've certainly turned stuff down because I don't believe in what I'm reading,
Yeah.
in terms of I don't support whatever the message of the book is. And I've also turned stuff down because you know, I'm in a very lucky position. I don't have to work in order to send the kids to school or pay the mortgage. I have to work to pay my electricity bill, which has gone up exponentially in the last year. But you know, I'm not supporting a family, and I have a small pension, so I have the luxury of being able to say, actually, no, I don't want to do that book. And I do. And I say, I mean, I had an offer of one the other day, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm not working for that. It was a UK publisher. And I'm sorry, I can't work for that rate.
Yeah,
I'm
and
sorry, not work for that rate.
you
If you
when you
want
get
me,
to that point though, don't you think, Helen? Because Christine Rendell said something very important. Um, she tries to focus on the point that the book is someone's baby and she's been entrusted. So on that note, I they don't want me. You don't want me if I don't believe in the whole premise of your baby. You don't want me. And then I notice a lot of narrators get worried because if you've been around long enough and you do get to that point, you start turning people down. I remember I got to a point where I was like, I could see it coming a mile off. I was like, we're not going to work well. One of them was like, you need a lot of control over this, and you're not going to hear from me until the book's sent in, and that's not going to be comfortable for you. The other one, I didn't fit. I just didn't fit. I like and respect your work, but I'm the wrong narrator for you. But you turn down like 3 books in a row. Like you suggest they cancel one of the contracts, and then suddenly you've got like a blank. Because I was always someone that took everything on. And I think it's a career, it's a step up. It's a good
yeah,
place to be. You're starting to make choices about your career.
you have to remember, I don't really work within directly with authors, or very,
Yeah.
very. I've only done it 4 times in my entire life.
Oh,
Um,
really? Even in the beginning, you didn't?
Even at the beginning, I've only ever directly worked with authors for 4 books. One, just make sure that's right. One, 5 books.
I do like it when it's
The
right.
rest of the time
When it
I'm
works,
working
it
through
works.
publishers. I've never had any success at all on ACX or any of the other platforms, come to that, ever. I haven't found any books that I wanted to do. I've never been cast. I've been cast for 5 books on those platforms, and I've actually stopped even looking. I don't look, I don't audition, I don't submit, because I have had absolutely no luck with it at all. None, absolutely none. And the books that I have done, even though I've enjoyed them and thought they were good books, I've sold, I think the most I've ever made in a year was £65.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm absolutely useless at it. I am
I don't know if it's a case of being useless, but
useless at it.
you seem more suited to the higher level books, and you're not going to find those on.
Well,
I mean,
maybe,
some you get lucky, but
I'm no good at spotting books that are going to sell. I think that's the thing. Even when I was starting out, I'm no good at. I mean, I will look at a book and go, "Oh, I really love this." There was one I did really, really liked, and I thought it was a very nicely written book, and I thought it would do really well. Sold virtually nothing. It just didn't appeal to a wide public. So I admit I am utterly, utterly useless at doing at working. I like working with authors. I've got no problem with working with authors. I get on. I always, even when I'm working through publishers, I generally manage to make contact with the author on Twitter or on LinkedIn or whatever, and develop a relationship with them. And
are
then
we allowed to do that? I always wondered about that. I'm always tempted.
I always do it. I don't do it until the book is released. So I don't do it during the production process. So I never, ever, I find them and I follow them sometimes silently, but I don't ever make contact with them until after the book is out, because I think that puts them under an unfair pressure, the feeling that they've got to get back to you or talk to you while you're actually working on their book.
Yeah.
But I always do it afterwards. And I mean, they often post, they'll go, an author will say, "Oh, it's publication day for XYZ" on Twitter, say, because they never talk about the audiobooks. They only ever talk about the print books. But if you know it's been a simultaneous release, which it often is if you're working through a publisher, I'll go, "Yeah, congratulations. It's a fantastic book. I love doing the audio version," which is also available today. And that's all. And then sometimes they get back to me. And I mean, I've actually built a relationship with several of the authors that I've worked with, and they've then gone back to the publishers and said, when I write the sequel, I want Helen to do it.
Yeah, I did. I had that.
Publishers don't always agree. Sometimes they really piss the authors off and refuse to cast you and cast somebody else. But and that happens. But I never ever try and do it during the production. I always wait until after the event, and then I do make contact with them. And you're not allowed to do it. Some certain publishers, Be Audio particularly, forbid you to contact the authors during the production process. They're very strict about it. Some like you to do it. HarperCollins encourage you to contact the author if you can. So it depends. You need to check with the individual companies that you're working for and saying, can I contact the author? I mean, I've had authors send me, character breakdowns, pronunciation guides during the production process. Occasionally after I finished recording, which is a little bit late.
To be honest, that's why I like working with publishers more than I like working with ACX. I prefer not to have all that.
Daniela, this is with a publisher. This was with the publisher. The woman decided, how would you say the name? Can I ask the room, please? I've got to remember the name.
Do you want to spell it? Type it out instead of say it, because
it's not that complicated. What was his name? Oh, I know. Yes, this is the name. I'm going to write it down.
Type it out, because if you say it, we'll all want to say it the way you said it.
I want to know how everybody would say that name. Can we go around the room?
Levi.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Levi.
Levi.
Right. I said it, Levi.
Right.
The author decided and sent to the publisher, after I'd finished recording, a pronunciation list with it pronounced Levy.
Levy. That's what I thought. Because that would be the reason we're all saying Levi is because of the genes. But Levy would be the most common sense way to say it.
But why didn't she tell me before I started? There were 400 sodding pickups because he was one of the major characters.
Oh,
I
wow.
also had another one where it was a multi-voice, and the narrator who uploaded the audio first said this name. What was the name? I've got to remember what this name was now. I can't remember. Oh, I can. Can I? I can't remember. I can't remember. Anyway, the narrator who uploaded first said a very common name, a really common name, in a very unusual way. And because she'd uploaded first, they made the other three narrators who'd all uploaded it said in the ordinary way re-record the name, which was really irritating. You know, it's just, yeah, you have to prep and you have to look stuff up and you have to double check. And if, I mean, many publishers, if you've got a heavyweight book, will give you a word list.
Yeah.
You know, they will. And that's, and even if you disagree, if they give you a word list, you follow the pronunciation.
And that's with nonfiction. I've learned nonfiction. I record. It takes me 2 hours to do one finished hour. Everyone's
Yeah.
different. There's no judgment. But if I do a nonfiction, it's going to take me 2.5 hours to do every finished hour. And the reason is I have to keep stopping. And it's not the words are so big. It's, do you ever find research, research, association, association, certain words I cannot, diverse, diverse. I can't get them right. I have to look them up every time. Do you have words
And
like
it's
that?
also a matter of personal preference. I mean, I'm firmly on the side of research personally. Absolutely 100%. If it's active research, you research. Um, Doctors carry out research about illnesses. You research a book. You research. You are a researcher, not a researcher. You know, there's all of that, but you have to accommodate regional preferences and also period preferences, because modern writing and modern writers will have a different perspective on the pronunciation of certain words than, say, Virginia Woolf or Shakespeare or
Yeah.
P.J. Woodhouse or whoever it happens to be. I mean, I remember getting shot down in flames because I'd researched that David Bowie was talked about in a book. Now, I've always known David Bowie as David Bowie, always.
Isn't that who he is?
Somebody said he was called David Bowie.
I hate that. That's not his name. That's like
No,
Adidas
yeah.
instead of Adidas.
Well, but it is all a matter of personal preferences,
Yeah.
and you cannot please all the people all the time, ever. So
Yeah.
don't beat yourself up about it. Just, you know, just get on with it.
I'm I don't blink. I don't blink. I like that. I like getting to the point where those things just don't worry me anymore. The pickups, the this, the that. You just get to the point that you kind of know what you're doing, don't you?
Yeah. And I mean, it does very much depend on the number of pickups for me, depends on very much on the quality of the writing. I find I get far more pickups when I'm reading books allegedly written in British English, but written by American authors, because the syntax is completely different.
Yeah.
That, you know, the way you say I would have done something, or it is completely different. The way an American organizes a
Yeah.
sentence is completely different, and my brain automatically auto corrects and puts it into British English, and then you get a pickup. And
Yeah.
but you can't, you know, it is how you're hardwired to do it.
Yeah. And
And
sometimes they can be good writers, but they just don't speak the way you do.
yeah,
And it
exactly.
just, yeah, doesn't make.
I mean, the same applies to me reading an American character. The syntax is very much part of what makes somebody American, which is why Brits can't write Americans, and frankly, many Americans can't write Brits because
Which is why some American writers will say, sound Irish. And then you come back with an Irish. No, 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 no. I want you to sound Irish, Irish, like the characters in Murder, She Wrote, Irish.
Or Cockney, like
That's what they want.
Like what's his name in Mary Poppins, isn't it? You got to talk like that, haven't you? And it's about as realistic as, a flock of flying pigs.
Yep. Or the Lucky Charms guy, Rebecca says.
Who's the Lucky Charms guy?
The Lucky Charms guy. Oh, it's an American thing. He's over the top Irish. The Lucky Charms guy.
Begorra be Jesus. Yeah. What that kind of Irish?
That Irish.
The touch of the Blarney stone. Begorra. Yeah, okay.
And Kim says I researched a pronunciation for a proper last name, Turkish, I think, and sent what I found to the author. Since he hadn't gotten back to me, he sent me back a response thanking me. He had just guessed and had been saying it incorrectly in his head the whole time.
What always makes me laugh is where if you're doing a fantasy and they've got these, completely made up languages with totally random sort of hieroglyphs of names and places and all the rest of it. And they come back to you and say, you're saying it wrong. And you go, well, you made it up. How the hell am I
like, does it matter?
Why? I know.
But I remember my first experience with pickups, I think it was 82 pickups, because there was a town in the book in this thriller called Margaretville. Guess what I said for the entire book? Margaritaville. Because and sometimes names are like that. You think it should be one thing, so your mind autocorrects it. But do you not think this makes us smarter? Somebody said, oh, it doesn't because you're doing the same thing. But I think this regular exercise in learning must make us like brilliant.
Except that, I mean, I don't think it's really interesting. Somebody said to me, can you not remember? Because I'm doing this MA.
Are you still doing that's astounding to me.
I'm now at the beginning of my second year. It's totally bonkers. It's such hard work, but I'm really enjoying it. Anyway, somebody said to me, why can you're reading all these books, you read 100 books a year or whatever, why can't you remember them? Why don't you quote from them? And I say, I can't remember anything about them. Once I've narrated them, it's like tumbleweed, they're gone. I retain them just for the time that I'm doing them. I might remember bits of them, but I can't remember the whole thing.
I mean, but you do so many books, plus with the MA, I mean, there's only so much room in our brains, right?
Well, and I tell you a funny story. The first week of this semester, the book to read that week was Ulysses. That week.
Saying that, says the girl, I won't say what, but I got some big news on the phone tonight while I was cooking dinner for my husband. And I didn't realize I turned the oven off, and I actually served him a raw baked potato for dinner. So I think we concentrate on what we need to concentrate, and the rest. But Rebecca says, master's degree. Tell us about your MA. I want to hear, now starting your second year, what this workload has been like, how you have adjusted to it. Because I remember when we first talked, it was still kind of newish. How's it changed you as a person? Have you been able to do more and become hyper organized? All these questions. Tell us about it.
Hyper organized, don't be silly.
You'd have to be. To be.
I just stay up longer. I just, work till 3 o'clock in the morning and get up again at 6. It has been a phenomenally hard workload. And the major thing, it's not the writing. The writing is easy. What's hard is the reading list, because there just aren't enough hours in the day to read books that you're supposed to read. Because as well as the books, there's at least 3 essential reading books a week.
Can you not get the audio version and listen while you're doing the dish?
I can, but I hate listening to audiobooks. You know this about me. I can't listen to them. I have for the first time in my entire life, I've actually had a subscription to Amazon. Don't
Oh,
tell the world.
Rebecca wants to know what you're studying. It
Oh,
occurs to me that
creative writing. Creative writing. So for the first time in my life, I've taken out a subscription to Audible. So because I haven't got time to read all these books. And the first one I've listened to was beautifully read by Andrew Scott, was another James Joyce. I got to the end of it. I loved every minute of it. I can remember absolutely nothing about it now. Nothing at all. Nothing. I might as well
really,
not. I can't remember it at all. If
I
you
think
ask
it's I think
anyone
it's
about,
because I almost went blind that I grasped so heavily onto listening to audiobooks that now I really learn the best when I'm listening. And I can do other things and I retain everything.
I mean, I have to sit and literally concentrate on it. If I do anything else, I don't even remember what I've heard 5 minutes before. So I have to sit and listen. So it's not saving me any time at all.
Okay.
The other thing I've discovered is that even in the lectures, which are all recorded and done, it's a virtual course. I'm not actually going into university. I'm actually
Right.
doing it online. And although we do have 2 summer schools a year, so we do meet and we do have live lectures, but most of it is done online. I also can't absorb the lectures from video at all. Nothing goes in. I have to read the transcript.
You see,
I
I find it hard to read. My eyes hurt. I get dis. If I'm marking up a manuscript, I have to put that binaural music on as much as it annoys me to make me like I can't anymore. I used to sit for hours. I used to be like crossing the street on my way to school with like a book open, I used to get pissed off in class and I had to put my book away. Like I was that kid. But now I find it difficult.
I
Just
just, I mean, I just can't. And it's really interesting. And I mean, I listen to the radio a lot, but I realize it just goes in one ear and out the other. It doesn't really stick. Have I tried a walking desk? Oh, the walking desk. That's you, Daniela.
oh. Um um no, I stand narrating. I stand narrating. Oh, no, no, no. I stand narrating. I can't imagine how you could concentrate on typing or, oh no, not for prep. I don't know about you guys, but I'm sitting on the couch with a budgie on my shoulder and 8 blankets and a hot drink. Like, I couldn't be standing on a treadmill. I'm not that keen. Do you do
I
that,
couldn't stand
Rebecca?
on a treadmill doing anything, let alone press the yeah, might stand on a treadmill, but if it started to move, I'd fall off it.
Rebecca does both, but Rebecca, I've got to say, is one of those people that does like yoga and exercise for fun.
I liked treadmill while prepping. Oh my God.
Okay, you guys are just
I mean,
weirdos.
anybody who likes to treadmill has got to be completely barking mad anyway, as
I
far as
assumed we were all sitting there with cappuccinos and
I
blankets,
walk the dog. I mean, I do walk. I walk the dog twice a day, every day.
but not
Um,
while prepping.
no, 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 no. Although I do come up with characters while I'm walking the dog, and he thinks I'm completely mad because I'll suddenly go, "Yes, I know what Freddie. She sounds like this." No, 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 no. I'll go, and he goes, "Yeah, he does. That's right." So he does help. He's very good. He's very non-critical. But no, I have to. I must have be a bear of very small brain. I can only really do one thing at a time.
That's the way
And
you're
always,
supposed to do it, though. They say that multitasking isn't actually efficient or effective.
yeah, maybe it's just that's been the big issue with this MA is just the lack of time. There's just so much reading, and there just aren't enough hours in the day to do it and do everything else.
Yeah.
Really. So I do this kind of right. I'm only going to go to bed for 5 hours. And when I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to do 2 hours work and then go back to bed again for an hour, which is
But
what I
is
do
that
most.
not taking a toll? Not getting a lot of sleep?
No, because what I do is I regularly wake up at about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'll do a couple of hours, then I'll go back to sleep at 6 till 8. then I'll walk the dog, then I'll work during the morning, then I'll have a Z after lunch. Almost always have a Z after lunch. I'll do an hour at 2 o'clock, between 2 and 3. Then I'll work again for a couple of hours, usually reading. That's when I read, I'm most fresh and it seems to sink in better. Then I walk the dog.
Yeah, so Z is a nap.
Z is a nap, yes.
Z is Z, which is but you know what's funny hearing you talk about this, because I'm doing the mentor thing, and I won't say who, obviously, but it's been an interesting exercise because I took my schedule templates and tried to help this other person and put their schedule in, completely different than my schedule. I think they're like a 4 a.m.-ish kind of person. And it was interesting how we all managed to slot in the things we need to do. And one thing is completely what works for you won't work for me, won't work for Kim, won't work for Barbara, any of us. Like, we're so unique, but we still try to follow the self-help books. And like, we all have to be morning people and, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Christine says, is my classwork online or largely, is your classwork live or largely online? And I'm saying it's online, Christine, but we're a very vibrant and connected group. So we Zoom privately every week. We do workshops ourselves every week. So we do, and we do live writing and listening stuff. So we do live feedback and review to each other's writing every week. We natter regularly. There's a little group of about 10 of us out of 140 who've really connected. And we work. They've just done, I couldn't go to it sadly, but they've just done a retreat, a writer's retreat in France. We're doing another one in Hull in the summer. So we're a really together little group of people, and there's loads of support, and I've made some very good friends.
Have you met them in person, any of them?
I've met quite a lot of them in person now, yes. One guy actually came over from Singapore for 2 days to do a workshop.
Wow.
Which was amazing.
And you're going to be meeting everyone at APAC as well, aren't you? Yeah, I hear the British Brigade's on their way over there to take over America.
There's about 25 of us going over.
Yeah, a lot of you.
There was a lot. I mean, when I think the first year I went to APAC in 2017, there were 5 of us.
Wow.
Now there's 25 of us.
So I want to go. I'm going to go in 2015 if they end up, or 25. Oh my 25. God.
Yes. Yeah, they're doing it. Well, they say they're doing it online next year. Whether they will or not, I don't know. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it enormously.
So, well, I'll go in 2025 as long as they have a Trader Joe's near there.
Saving up for Johnny Heller's New England retreat.
Barbara's going to the Johnny Heller New England retreat. Have you ever been to one of those, Helen?
No, I haven't.
I want to go. They look like they stand by the fireplace with like warm, cool drinks.
Talk to Christine about it, because Christine's been, I know, and enjoyed it very much.
Christine, did they stand by the fireplace with nifty outfits and mellow drinks and like play the guitar and piano? Okay. Oh, wait, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
It's wonderful. It's so much fun. And can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. It's so lovely to be with everybody in a kind of learning but fun, relaxed environment. It's terrific fun. And there is all the fire and the s'mores and all that stuff.
They've got s'mores. I have the perfect outfit. It looks like there's a lot of hugging going on though.
What is s'mores?
The marshmallow things on the end of a stick. I'm not particularly partial to them, but they're a big thing. And
graham crackers. They've got graham crackers and Hershey chocolate bars and marshmallows melted. That's a s'more.
And you burn the marshmallows and they're torched and they go oozing off.
Yes.
Okay.
You've got to have a s'more, Helen. It'll change your life.
It's like the English equivalent of shoving a potato in the fire on bonfire night. It's that kind of thing.
Only with chocolate.
Yeah, and marshmallows.
What's a graham cracker?
What?
What's a graham cracker?
It's a McVitie's digestive biscuit.
Okay, thank you. Right.
Oh,
okay.
a graham cracker. Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear the question. Yeah, it's a McVitie, but not the good hobnob kind, just the plain.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. So 10 million calories burnt on a fire.
No,
Great.
it's actually quite low calorie. You can do it for Weight Watchers points, 5 points.
You know, they're more fun when you think of them as being really high calorie, though.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
but marshmallows
also
are
calories don't count when you're on holiday.
exactly. And actually, I just did a book called Intuitive Eating, and calories don't ever count. So it was very eye-opening. Hope it sticks.
Wow. Oh, perhaps I shall use one of my brand new Audible credits and buy that book.
Yeah, she's amazing. She teaches you that meditating, because I was the reason, because after the book is out, I'd love to do her. She has weekly meditations, and they're free, I think, and because she's got like a Facebook group, and it's the whole connecting with who you are, who you really are, so that you're not, because if you're hungry, if you're sitting around at night wanting food and snacks, what do you really want? Where there's a problem and it's not in the refrigerator.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It was a really eye-opening book. A lot of it I didn't want to hear, but I was forced to because I was narrating the book. In real life, I would have just gone, all right, next diet.
Oh, that's really interesting. That is me. So food is replacement for something. Yeah. I hear that very.
Well, because we learn when we're babies, your mother feeds you if you're upset. So you learn from the minute you're born that food is comfort. So we're just doing the best we can to comfort ourselves.
Mm.
You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, what other ways are there? And
well, it's also when it gets out of control, isn't it? That's the issue for some people.
And what are you denying yourself? Because I don't eat all day because I'm thinking about work. And I used to think that was a good thing. When you're on diets, you don't eat all day. That's less food, right? But then at night, the minute you turn off, you're sitting in front of the TV. And another book. See all these nonfiction books get in your head, even though
yeah.
This other book.
It's all because of a nonfiction book that I read after my husband died, which was I narrated, and I did it. I did it within 2 weeks of him dying. I started this narration, and it was called How to Age Joyfully. And it's a wonderful book, and it completely changed my life. Totally changed my life.
Ooh, is it out now?
Yeah. It's been out for 18 months, nearly 2 years. It's by a woman called Maggie Piggott, a British woman, and it's what got she learned to flamenco dance after being bereaved, and I thought, there's no way I'm dancing, but what shall I do instead? And it's what made me register for this MA.
Wow.
And it was completely due to Maggie's book. And she knows. I mean, I contacted her and told her.
I'm going to get that. I'm going to get that.
It's a wonderful book. It's about how you self-sabotage as you get older and tell yourself all the things you can't do instead of telling yourself what you can do. And it was absolutely fantastic. It's a wonderful book.
Because we're always fighting the negativity bias, aren't we?
Yeah. I mean, it was slightly repetitive, like most self-help books are. You know, they reinforce, they tell you, then they tell you again, then they tell you again. But the essential message is very good. It's a super book. Really,
I'm so going to get it. I'd like something like there was
literally. I mean, it was what it after Ben died. It's what kept me going for the duration. I mean, I read it in a week. I narrated it in a week, and I was doing all sorts of weird hours. But it was the only thing that would stop me falling apart at the seams, was working. So I did a lot of work in those weeks after he died. And that was the first book that I did. And she was wonderful. Maggie was so lovely. I was doing it for Penguin Random House, and I was supposed to be recording it in studio. And I was due to start recording with a director down the line the day after the day that Ben died. So I contacted them and said, I actually don't think I can read it tomorrow. I don't think I'd phoned them on, I'd contacted them on the Monday and said, my husband's not very well, I'll keep you posted. And then he died, and I contacted them and said, I can't do it, I can't work this week. And they said, do you want us to recast it? And I said, no, I really don't. I really don't. Can you bear with me and let me record it on my own at my own pace? I will still meet your deadline, but I don't think I can work to a schedule like as you would with a director down the line, saying, okay, we're going to do it in 3 days. And I said, but I will deliver it. Give me your absolute deadline and I will deliver it by that time. But I may well be recording at weird hours of the night.
But there's no one that wouldn't know. I mean, that's a safe bet. You're Helen Lloyd. It's going to get delivered.
Yeah, but I mean, they offered to recast it, and I said, no, I really, if you can bear it, please don't. If you can give me the wiggle room. And I was immensely grateful to have that book, because it kept me focused, it kept me engaged. And I was working at bizarre hours. I mean, I was doing it at really, really strange hours when I couldn't sleep. And I was doing it, I was kind of going, okay, now pull yourself together. You've got to get in the booth. You've got to do some work now because you've got this deadline to meet. It actually kept me going, really did. I was immensely grateful. And I contacted Maggie, the author, afterwards and explained what the kind of delays and things had been, and just said it had just changed my life completely and kept me completely sane and kind of functioning at a very difficult time. I was very grateful for it. So, there are huge things that in the community of narrators that and in the work that we do, there's huge stuff that is just like serendipity and that plops into your lap. And I am immensely grateful for that.
The books come to you, right, at a time. Books come to you. I won't lie. If I book a thriller, I'm over the moon. Or a fiction, contemporary fiction, a book that that I would read myself. I'm like so excited. And then a little tiny part of me used to die every time I get excited, open an email, and it's a nonfiction about like some business thing or something. For just a minute, I'd be like, okay, bread and butter job, do it. There has never been one of them ever that I haven't walked away with a life-changing lesson from, every single one of them. And I've still walked away with like mindset changes and, how to deal with overcoming stress-induced brain fog. She said, if you're raising your child and you want your child to have the best life possible, are you going to encourage your child to put everything digital on late at night, turn everything off so you're sitting in the dark, and then have them rehash and think about all the mistakes and bad things that have happened in their life? Would way past bedtime and eat junk food while they're doing it? It's like, wow. The nonfiction, and they come to you at weird times, like with you at that book at that time. Do you not find they always hit right when coincidentally you needed to hear the lesson?
I'm not sure about the one that was about the MI9 spies escaping World War II. I don't quite know where that fitted in with my life.
That actually sounds fun, though.
It was all 19 hours of it.
Wow.
It was hard going, but it was a great book, fascinating book.
Yeah, but maybe you just needed your mind taken off of something at that time.
Taken off everything for all 19 hours with all those Italian, Spanish, French, German voices and passages in it. Yeah, it was very interesting. It was a fascinating book, but that was hard. That was hard. Yeah. That was the one where Blackstone gave me a spreadsheet of pronunciations, and it was 15 pages of an Excel spreadsheet of pronunciations.
Wow.
There were over 4,000 pronunciations in it.
I've been sticking them on my phone because it's the easiest thing, and then I just reach to it and hit the button alphabetically. It's on my phone, the pronunciations now. So much easier, because I used to have it on this computer, that computer, this paper. Nothing I did, I'd have to stop and look. But now I just reach over, my phone's away from the computer, reach over, hit the sound here, and I let it repeat 3 times in a row. On
Oh, that's clever.
so
I turn my phone off when I'm recording those, so that wouldn't work for me, maybe.
Nobody ever calls me, and my sound's always off. So if somebody calls me, I just assume it's spam. So I'm not gonna.
Oh, that's really clever. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I have an MP. I do have an MP3. I do save MP3s, and I have them. I record in Studio One, and I have Ocean Audio running beneath on the same computer, and I load the audio that I've got, the sound samples, onto Ocean Audio, and then as I've listened to them, I just delete them off the end of the file, so they're all in order.
Oh, that's smart.
Just click down and listen to the. That's how I do corrections as well.
Yeah.
I'll have the pickup track on Ocean Audio, and I record into Studio One, and I just listen, playback, record, delete off Ocean Audio, listen to the next one 3 times, record, delete it, so that I never miss one. It works really well for me.
Yeah, I think it's you find these shortcuts, because I know now I get pickups and they give you those YouTube links. Now the day before, I pull up the link with the sound, 3 times recorded on my phone. That way, when I go in to do those pickups, everything's on my phone. I don't have to like be searching or, but I think it's good. Those hacks really make a difference, because anything you can do to get out of that while you're in the booth, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Helen, we run out of time every single time, and this wasn't even meaty stuff. We literally chatted for almost an hour.
Sorry, I feel I've rabbited about an awful lot of stuff.
I think we needed this. But what is irrelevant? I think we needed this. I think right now, everything online is just heavy stuff, and everyone is feeling the heaviness.
Well, I think there's so much stuff going on. I mean, there's the whole AI stuff that people are well about. Then there's the whole self-promotion thing, which can get out of control sometimes, and you start seeing, oh God, I've just booked my 75th book and I'm fully booked up till December next year, and you go, oh shit, I'm not. And all your doubts and your self doubts and your fears and your come in, and they never go away. It doesn't matter how many books you've done, you still have all that. And it's and FOMO, absolutely.
Everyone has it. And the other thing is, part of the reason during times like this, I think this has been a kind of, because I told you I had so many messages since December, so many messages from people you wouldn't believe saying, I've had this dry spell. We held a dry spell call because it was Lauren Rodriguez's idea. It was a brilliant idea. And guess what? Nobody was having a dry spell. We had like 4 people on the call, because it feels like if you're not afraid to say, yep, Kim, and I won't say the other person in case they don't want to, but it feels like you don't want to admit it, because it's like, don't say the word or the curse will get you kind of thing. But I also think that a lot of people react to a dry spell and to worry and insecurity by shouting louder, by posting more, because I've noticed a lot of posts are 10 posts about one job. And I'm not putting them down, because we're all getting through the way you can get through. But those 10 posts are making other people email me the next morning.
If you're having a dry spell, then the chances are that perhaps the publishers that you work with the most regularly are also having a dry spell.
Yeah, I think it's
thinking about it.
A quiet time.
It's not going to help them at all.
Yeah.
Stuff does go in waves.
Yeah.
And I also think that I do, what you were saying earlier about turning work down. I'm not suggesting that anybody should consider turning work down unless they feel there's a good reason to do so.
Yeah, no. Do what you have to do.
You have to do. But I also think that in order to progress, if what you're doing is an awful lot of romance, for example, and you don't want to continue doing an awful lot of romance, you aren't going to achieve working on thrillers or any other genre if you continue to record romance.
Yeah.
What you've got to do is get yourself some new samples of a genre you do want to do, contact the publishers who publish the genre that you do want to do, and be perfectly straight. Say, look, I've done 440 or 4 romance books, and actually I think I want to, I'd love to do something else. Can you possibly, is there any, what would you suggest? Can you help? Because sometimes they do. I mean, because they're human beings, and they get, okay, well, she's very good at this. Let's see if she can do that.
And you go back to the basics. I mean, it's what you say about things also going in spells. And I also think in our personal life and work, you go through hustle stages, and then you go through refining stages, and then you go through resting stages. And you don't get to skip over those stages. You don't get to skip over the quiet times. Those are the times you're supposed to be doing the demos and the website. You can't just skip it. It doesn't work that way.
So reflection of your craft, if you like. Use the time that when you're not so busy to maybe sign up for some extra classes, to read books for pleasure that you think, could I narrate that? Could I actually put that classic that I've always loved through Spoken Realms as a self-production? Why not? If it takes me, I've just finished, funnily enough, Sons and Lovers. I've always wanted to do it because D.H. Lawrence lived less than 6 miles up the road from where I live. I can actually do the bloody accent. Most people can't. And I've always wanted to do it. And I've had it on Spoken Realms, through public domain book. Yeah, indeed. I've had it on Spoken Realms, and it's been up there for 5 years.
Yeah, I'm really bad. I keep pushing it.
And I've restarted it so often, and I've never got to the end, and I've just finished it.
But
I'm just editing it now.
Do you not think it's about identity? Because you know this, having been an actor, that you learn this as an actor, right? You have to stop feeling like a freelancer. Like, I'm at the mercy. Oh my God, is this it? Is this going to be the end of it? Am I never going to work again? How am I going to pay my... And you've got to start thinking like a jobbing actor.
Exactly.
What about my craft? How am I going to get better? And I saw a thing Marilyn Monroe actually wrote, a journal entry. And she was like, my goals are, and it was a lot of, I've got to start attending this acting class more, and I've got to attend that more, and I have to pay attention to so-and-so more and really refine this. And say what you want about her. She spent her life wanting to be taken seriously,
Yeah. And I mean, if what you're doing is I don't know, murder mysteries that are coming to you on ACX, and what you really, really want to do is literary fiction, get yourself a literary fiction and put it through Spoken Realms.
Yeah.
And extend your portfolio that way.
And it's so satisfying.
Yeah.
It's your baby. You get to do the cover, and
you're going to do a jolly good job on it because it's all on you.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to cast me to read Virginia Woolf. They're going to cast bloody Juliet Stevenson. Nobody's going to cast me to do it. They're just not. They're going to do a celebrity voice because they think it won't sell. So do it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Helen, this has been wonderful.
Oh, it's been so lovely.
As always. You do know that I'm going to beg you to come back.
I will. Go on. I will. I love talking to you guys.
Because we know you have so much time, what with your full-time narrating career and your MA.
This is just time out. This is wonderful.
But this has been a pure joy. I think this is a balm for our souls. Oh, I forgot. Famous last words.
Yes.
For 60 years from now, what do you want to leave people with?
I thought you were going to say, what am I going to be doing 60 years from now? Not a lot. Pushing up the daisies, I think. What do I want to leave? Oh, God. Oh, Daniela, that's a really crappy question. Leave the world 60 years from now. Well, I have a granddaughter. That's a good start. Oh, I think the most important thing that I've discovered in my very, very, very long life thus far is that it's really, really important to reinvent yourself. Don't ever sit back on your laurels and think, "Oh my God, I've done it all." Just reinvent yourself is my answer. I think. Don't
I love that.
find something else. Find if you're bored with something, or if you're not getting where you want to be with something, do something else. Find something else that you love, that start painting, start knitting, start doing whatever it is. Breed dogs, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. Get a parrot, teach it to speak. Do something that you love, that gives you joy, and reinvent yourself. And you've not, with whatever you've changed from, I think the big thing that stops people doing that is they think, I'm an actor, for example. If I stop being an actor and start being somebody else, everybody will think I failed. No, you haven't. You've just come to the end of that particular journey. You've just reached a point where you've fallen out of love with it. You haven't failed. You've just stopped doing it and started doing something else. And I think a lot of people, particularly in this industry, hang on. They're too frightened to let go of something that, and I love doing audiobooks, but to be perfectly honest, if it stopped working for me, and if it dried up completely, I mean, yes, there are dry patches, of course there, but if it stopped tomorrow and the whole industry went, okay, we're not hiring any more narrators, we're going to only use artificial voices, I'd go, okay, what can I do instead?
Yeah, that's how I feel. It's in me. It's the whole point of being a narrator and an actor is how good can I be? How much can I push myself? That's not going to go away. Nobody can take that away from me,
No,
right?
absolutely.
So then I'll just do it in a different way. How can I? But I do second the parrot thing.
I think that's really interesting, because you're talking about doing it in the best way you possibly can. That's what we all have to strive for, and that is what will stop AI taking over from us.
Which is what Johnny Heller said.
Exactly. Do what you do to the highest standard. Don't cut any corners. Do be the best that you can possibly be.
Yeah.
And by being better and remaining better and working at being better, you will, I'm not saying you'll stop AI. I think it's inevitable that it's going to happen. But what I think is that if you are a shit hot narrator, it's less likely to take over what you do. It's gonna pick people off. There are two things I think it's gonna do. It's gonna pick people off it's gonna pick the bottom feeders off. The people, the people who do it on the cheap, because it'll be cheaper and quicker. The issue is it's not just about money, it's about speed. If they can turn an audiobook around in 2 days, that's where it'll get us.
Yeah.
We're far more vulnerable on that than we are on money. It'll also take off the people on the top, because people like Stephen Fry, Jim Dale, I am absolutely certain have already licensed their voices for many, many, many millions of dollars. So they don't care. They will continue to make money by being who they are. But the jobbing actor like us, where people go, oh, I've heard that voice before. I can't remember who she is, but she's quite good. Or, oh, I really like this guy. He's just as good as Stephen Fry, but actually I think he's better. I'm going to listen to him instead of Stephen Fry. We are the people that AI won't be interested in us. Why would they be?
Yeah.
Because we do a bloody good job most of the time.
And we create. So
and authors don't want AI.
Yeah.
Because they're aware their jobs are also at risk.
And people need human connection. At the end of the day, people need human connection. But I've got you made a very important point when you were talking about find things that you love and everything, and you said get a parrot. You guys, or a budgie, because I dare you to be a depressed human being if you've got a little one going, "What are you doing, mommy?" at all, like 100 times a day. It's the I think it's simple, isn't it? Go back to like work hard and learn and become really, 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 really good. And then
or a Fred. I mean, have a Fred. And Fred saved my life. Fred has literally saved my life in the last 2 years, 18
I
months.
love Fred. He's a strong, silent companion that doesn't like the camera.
He's a bully. He comes and sits on me when I don't want him to sit on me. He was very funny the other night. He doesn't sleep. He sleeps in my bedroom, but he's got a bed at the bottom of the bed. And that's where he sleeps. And he knows that's where he sleeps. But occasionally he wants to get into bed, you see. So I kick him off. So the other night, it was cold. It was one of the cold nights. And he got into bed and I kicked him off. And he got back into bed and I kicked him off. I have to say, his bed is beautifully fluffy with a big blanket and it's next to a radiator. He's not, I'm not doing anything cruel to him. I kicked him off and he got into his own bed. He got back onto the bed again and I kicked him off. The next thing I heard the door opening. He can open the door. He goes up, pulls the latch down, pulls the door open. I hear him walking across the landing. Then I hear the spare bedroom door opening. He's gone on the spare room bed. He knows that I will get out of bed to go and get him out of the spare room. So I yank him off the bed in the spare room, go back into my bedroom, and he's lying there where I've just vacated the warm patch with his head on the pillow, feet in the air, going like this. The little sod got me out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever hour it was to get him back in bed again. He's not daft, that dog.
They know. I think the more love you give them, the more they become. Like, I just think it's a place to put your love. I can't imagine not having a pet.
Know me. And I know Christine feels the same.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm going to convert all non-pet owners. Thank you so much.
I was waving, that's all. I was just saying, it was very nice to see everybody.
I
will come back. Please invite me again.
Yeah, you're our resident coach.
Gabbler.
No, this call is what we all needed. We needed this call, and it's wonderful. Thank you so much, Helen. Bye, everyone.
Nice to see everyone. Nice to see everyone. Alan, Laurie, Christine, everyone. I don't know everybody's names.
I'll send you the chat.
Kim and Alton. Bye-bye, everybody. And Nancy.
You got Alan.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Take care.